Now, one of the joys of living in southwest Montana is abundant wildlife. However, some folks are working to bring that wildlife closer to us than it's safe. This week at Fish and Wildlife, we pass along some rules for keeping wildlife in the wild.
This week in Fish and Wildlife, sponsored by your local Montana Toyota dealers.
Thursday morning time once again for This Week in Fish and Wildlife. Once again, we're on the road. We're at the Madison River with Morgan Jacobson from Fish, Wildlife and Parks. Have kind of a situation, you and I were talking about this. People love to see deer in their neighborhoods and things like that, but it can cause a problem if you were doing something to bring those deer in there. Let's talk about that situation.
Yeah, one of the beautiful things that we enjoy about living in Montana is the wildlife that we have here, and how close it is to home sometimes. But what we want to remind people is that it is unlawful to feed wildlife, and there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, one, it helps, I mean, it causes a wildlife to lose that natural desire to find food in the wild, right? They become habituated to human presence. It causes safety issues for communities. You know, if we have an unnatural congregation of wildlife in a certain area because they're being fed, it brings in predators, and it causes other safety issues for the public. You know, also, Chet, we know now that we have chronic wasting disease in Region 3 that was recently found, and so, you know, feeding wildlife also creates a risk factor for spreading that disease more rapidly, and seeing subsequent declines in our wild herds. Yeah,
this is one of those things that wildlife needs to stay wild. They don't need to be in your yard if they do wander in occasionally, but it is illegal. You can't do this.
Yeah, you know, and it's, you know, it is tempting when, you know, especially with these Montana winters that we have, you know, the best chance that you can give wildlife to survive is by just leaving them be. You know, it's a natural process that plays out, and by keeping those animals wild, they're more likely to go and find food where they're supposed to. It also helps spread out those herds so they don't congregate, they don't spread disease, they don't attract predators, things like that.
Yeah, you mentioned the predator factor. That could potentially adversely affect that population of wildlife as well if they start showing up in populated areas.
Yeah, and it just causes concerns too for people who live in these areas. You know, there's you know, pets and children, things like that. You know, we want to avoid possible situations where we can. You know, if the public has concerns about wildlife, or they see wildlife that are sick, you know, they're welcome to call our office and talk to us. But generally, you know, it is illegal to feed wildlife. Now, that doesn't include bird feeders. It doesn't include agricultural practices, or you know, wildlife just feeding on your lawn, things like that. But if you're, you know, deliberately feeding wildlife, doing things like that, that's not okay.
Perfect. Again, Morgan Jacobson, we are at the Madison River talking about one of those situations that could be very detrimental not only to the deer but predator populations as well. Morgan, thank you very much. And that's This Week in Fish and Wildlife.
This Week in Fish and Wildlife was sponsored by Toyota. Let's go places.